Good morning. Hello? Good morning. Says the non morning person. Craig likes to schedule me first thing in the morning to see, either how messed up I will be or how, tired I am. I'm not sure which it is. I am assuming if you are here, it's because you either need a virtual assistant, want a virtual assistant, or have no clue what a virtual assistant is. And if that's not the reasons you're here, you may be in the wrong room. I'm totally okay if you are. So you're here to learn about virtual assistants and how they can supercharge your career. Let me introduce myself. I'm Grace Snoke. If you are a Star Wars fan, I am Supreme Leader Snoke. I did not die because I will not monologue. Those Padawans would be dead. So, yeah. I have been a virtual assistant for the last 3 years to Martha Carr and LMBPN Publishing. I've done work for Wolfpack Publishing, handling their websites as a virtual assistant. Prior to that, I was a corporate journalist and a director of communications for a company that worked for Fortune 500 companies. I was juggling things all the time. Time waits for no one. As authors, we need to spend more time writing. In fact, my biggest joke at the Romance Writers of Australia conference was, I had to hire myself an assistant so I could write this book. But we also have to research, market, send out newsletters, post on social media, edit, format, and everything else associated with being an author. What is a personal assistant or virtual assistant, and is there a difference? For the most part, some of you might have your spouse, your children, a friend, an in-law, someone helping you in person. Those are your personal assistants. You might have a virtual assistant who helps you out at conventions. They're also your personal assistant. A virtual assistant is someone who isn't near you, but lives, far away and does everything online. It is not a program. It is not someone on LinkedIn reminding you constantly that, hey, you have this app that can remind you of all the things you have to do. No, it's a person who actually helps you. They're just not in the same place as you. I'll leave that up for just a second. That way, for the most part, I am a virtual assistant. I do everything from LinkedIn. Mike is, LMBPN is located here in Vegas and in Cabo. Martha's in Austin, Texas. So all of my work is remote unless I'm here, and then it's in person. Is there a difference between the terms? Technically, yes, though many authors use them interchangeably. Some authors prefer to have a personal assistant that works with them in real life, which makes them an actual person assistant. As mentioned before, a spouse, a child, sibling, something like that. How can an assistant help? Take on time-consuming tasks that don't strictly have to be handled by you. Specialized assistants can save time and effort when it comes to ads, social media, graphics, etc. They can also save you money if they know what they're doing. It eliminates stress. How many of you are stressed? I rest my case. They help with tasks that need to be done that you don't like doing. How many of you like handling social media? A handful of people are like, yeah, kinda. How many of you like doing your newsletters? How many of you like doing your ad keywords? There's a handful of you, but there's a lot of you that are like, yeah, no. Is a virtual assistant a good choice for you? Are you willing to give up tasks? Do you you know what tasks you want to get rid of? And do you know what tasks you don't like doing? Let's talk about the tasks you don't want to get rid of. If you had 5 tasks to get rid of, what would they be? Marketing. Newsletter. Website. Website. Ads. Excellent. Wow. It's almost like I surveyed some of you. Survey says, and I did an informal survey of a handful of authors to the top 5 tasks they want to get rid of. Social media posts. Booking newsletter promotions, managing ongoing promotions. AMS keyword curation and maintenance. Newsletter creation, management, and swaps. Proofreading. But there's also a ton of other tasks an assistant could take on. I am not going to read through all of this. I am assuming you all can read it. When I say researching keywords and categories, I mean for your books. So if you're starting a new series and you want to get into that niche category, or you're looking for new keywords to hit a new audience, it's a great use of time because that is time consuming, and I do a lot of it. In the series Bible, if you have a huge series that's going to be a universe and you haven't created your own Bible because you didn't think about it when you started, they could do that too. Non-writing related tasks an assistant could take on. Let me explain the meal planning. Sometimes you just don't know what you want to do for the week, and you tell your person, okay, help me figure this out. Let them handle it for you so that you have one less thing to think of. Even if it's, let them meal plan and order your groceries for you, so all you have to do is pick it up. Because let's be honest, if you have 4 or 5 kids, sometimes that can get a little overwhelming each week. Travel planning is a great one, if they're willing to do it. And applying for speakers conferences, There's a lot of conferences out there that authors can speak at. You just have to apply to them. It just takes a little bit of time. Oh, did you want to? Sorry, go ahead. All right. Why specialized assistants? Having a PA who focuses solely on marketing, on whether that's Facebook or Amazon, BookBub, or all of the above, can make them more efficient and able to focus on generating sales leads with their efforts. If you have an assistant who knows how to do urban fantasy or romance or clean romance, they already know the ins and outs. They know who to target. It makes it so much simpler. They have focused knowledge and experience that can create better results than training an assistant on how to do ads. And if you've never done the specialized tasks you want them to do, there is no learning curve for both of you. Communication is key. Assistants aren't mind readers. We're close. We're not that good yet. They won't know if they're doing something wrong or if you want them to do or try something new if you don't tell them. They also don't know if you're planning something special to relay that to your fans, i.e. you're doing a Kickstarter, keep an eye out for it. You've forgotten to tell your fans. They have no idea it's coming. They won't know if they're doing a good or bad job if you don't tell them. I am huge about feedback. If you don't give feedback to them, it's just like any other job. They can't fix what's wrong. Constructive feedback is important. You can't just tell them, wow, you suck. Does not work. Tell them what went wrong and what you'd like to see them do different. Don't be afraid to part ways with an assistant who isn't working out. And keep in mind, they can fire you as a client for the same reasons. If they have to chase you down repeatedly to find out what your deadlines are or to find out what your next release is so that they can plan your newsletter swaps, that doesn't work well. Which is why I talk about communication. You have to be in communication with them. You can't just say, I want you to be my virtual assistant, and not give them tasks to do. It doesn't work. Questions to ask yourself. And this is before you even think about hiring an assistant. What trust are you willing to place in a virtual assistant? Trust is huge. Are you willing to give them usernames and passwords? Are you going to use LastPass? Are you going to give them your financial information to charge ads on? What is your time worth to you? This means how much are you willing to pay them to do the work that you don't want to do? What is their experience or lack thereof worth to you? So if they're a new assistant, are you willing to pay them less while they learn and then increase their rates? Or if they have a lot of experience, are you willing to pay them more because they're experienced? Are you willing to train your assistant in tasks that they may not know how to do, but are willing to take on? If so, what are some things you'd be willing to teach them? Are you willing to teach them how to do your ads if you do your own ads? Are you willing to teach them how to write in your voice for social media posts? Are you willing to invest in certain products or programs to make your author career easier? If it's a new assistant or a new author who's trying to out being a virtual assistant while they're trying to make money being an author, they may not have Publisher Rocket or Vellum or some other things and can't afford it right away. Are you willing to do that for them? What genres are you looking for a VA to assist in? And this is one of the most important questions because I feel strongly that assistants should know your genre. You know your genre, they need to know your genre. Because let's be honest, sweet and clean romance is not the same as contemporary romance, is not the same as erotica. You do not want a sweet romance person doing erotica and vice versa. You don't want someone doing paranormal romance who doesn't know clean romance. They are totally different beasts. Are you considering one or more assistants? What tasks are you willing to give up to another person? What tasks are you absolutely unwilling to part with, and why? And I emphasize the why because it may just be right now you're unwilling to give that up. But if you find someone you trust, you may. Before looking for an assistant, protect yourself. Have a plan in place where passwords are concerned. Will you be sharing your password or have to in some cases, or using something like LastPass? LastPass does cost money. It is pricey, but it's better than giving your KDP password or your direct-to-digital password to an assistant if you choose to go that route. Will you be sharing your credit card information, PayPal, or inquiring the assistant to pay for it and you reimburse them? Determine what level of access they need when you give them access to your Facebook page. Do they really need admin, or will editor or another level do? And I talk about that because at admin level, you can be booted from your own page. If they get hacked, you could lose your page. It can take a long time to get it back. So it's one of those Protect yourself. Insist that they have two-factor authentication. Otherwise, it is a headache you do not want to mess with. If they are scheduling for social media platforms where you can't give them access, will you share your password? Purchase an app that has the ability to grant them access. Or purchase an app and let them have that username and password only. TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, if you're still on Twitter, or if you've left, good for you. Woo! Before granting them access to your publishing accounts, be sure you know the risks involved. And let me talk about that for just a second. Let's say, I'm just going to pick one of you. Let's say you have an account that you want to share with her, and I'm picking the mod in front of me. She's had her account banned. She's logged in on your account with her IP address. Guess what Amazon is going to say? She's using your account, that's her, and ban you. Not a good thing to go into, is it? That's where you have to really think, do you want to give access to your account? And bluntly ask them. They may lie. You may find out later that they lied, but really think about it if you want to give that level of access. And why do you want to give that level of access? Now, I'd asked for questions in the 20Books group for this topic. Got a lot of them, so I'm going to go ahead and go through those. At what point is it better to invest in a virtual assistant versus other areas? When you're starting to feel overwhelmed or beginning to forget or miss your own deadlines. I've missed my own deadlines. That's why I hired my own assistant. When you start dreading certain tasks and procrastinate them despite how much they need to be done. That's why I'm hiring a housekeeper. When you'd rather spend more time writing or whatever else you'd want to be doing. Whether that's going camping or spending time with your kids or house cleaning if that's your cup of tea. It's not mine. When you want some free time for stuff other than writing. How and where do you find a good assistant? I'm not for hire. We'll just put that there. It's not an easy question to answer. Ask for recommendations from fellow authors or assistants who are full but may know someone with openings. There are plenty of assistants out there who know people who might have an opening. Look for authors in your genre who are looking to do assistant work on the side for a while to bring in extra money. There are many authors who are looking to make extra money until their writing takes off, and they often have the experience new assistants don't have. Check out various groups with virtual assistants looking for work. I have one. We'll show it on the last slide. Look for virtual assistants that don't specialize in authors but are willing to learn. You can find a lot of assistants in India and other places. They have their own, website for that stuff, but they don't necessarily specialize in authors, so you have to be willing to teach. There are some author assistant agencies you can consider as well. I think Zero Alchemy has one. I think Enchanted Quill does. I can't remember if they do still or not. Be sure to interview any potential assistant before hiring them. How do you identify a good assistant? How do you verify experience? Interviewing is the first step. There's a list of questions you can use when interviewing. I have it available. You'll get a link to it at the end. Verify experience by looking at their resume, talking to authors they've worked for in the past. If they haven't worked for an author and are starting out, ask them questions about their past personal experience in the real world that could help them be a qualified assistant. For me, my experience was I was a director of communications for 2.5 years. I was a corporate journalist. I had 10 clients that I had to manage every month. If they have social media experience, ask to see the pages they have managed or currently managing, including their own. Are you willing to give them a chance if they don't have experience? You may find a really great assistant that has absolutely no experience. They just need a chance. What kind of process should authors expect to go through when they hire a virtual assistant? Expect the assistant to have questions for you. If they don't, that should be a warning flag. You may even be interviewed by an assistant. Have a list of tasks you know you want the assistant to start doing for you, as well as tasks you would like them to take on in the future. Discuss those tasks and determine if it's work they can do or would like to do. Because let's be honest, if someone doesn't like doing social media, they're not going to do a good job with it. Expect a discussion on rates, pay scale, availability, and expectations. Have other assistants you want to interview lined up in case your first choice doesn't have availability or if there's a personality conflict. And I would think after the first or second conversation, you will know if there's a personality conflict. Before the interview process, determine how long of a trial period you want to give an assistant before bringing them on. If you're going to have them sign an NDA, which I strongly encourage, before they begin work, be sure you have one drawn up where the names can be inserted as needed. Don't expect a free trial. You get what you pay for. Pay your assistant. It doesn't matter if they don't work out. Pay them. What are some things that might deter a virtual assistant from working with an author? Multiple pen names in multiple genres might deter an assistant unless you are only hire them to do work for a specific genre. Can be a little difficult to change between what you're posting for different genres and the different mindsets you need, depending on how your newsletters are done. An author who has a reputation with other authors or other assistants as being problematic, not participating in promotions, promising to do things and then not paying their assistants on time, expecting too much from an assistant, or not communicating. People do talk, and it does, we have a small enough community that it would be, don't want to work with them. The author writes in a genre the assistant isn't familiar with or isn't comfortable doing work in. Pretty self-explanatory on that one. The author doesn't know what tasks they want the assistant to take on, but wants to hire an assistant. Please don't do that. Please. The author expects more than they are willing to pay for an assistant for. How can an author avoid being problematic? Communication. Assistants aren't mind readers. Can you imagine why I keep saying that? They won't know if they're doing a good or bad job. Constructive feedback. Don't be afraid. I think I accidentally repeated that slide. Oops. How can an author avoid, part 2. Avoid repeated last-minute projects. Every week has a last-minute project that's going to get really tiresome really fast. Sometimes they can't be avoided, but when they happen repeatedly, it can cause planning issues if you have multiple clients. Let them know if they can delay other tasks of yours to get this task done first. Some tasks take longer than others, and if it's a last-minute project, it may get done later than expected. What tasks should a VA be expected to do? What things should they never do? My first answer is going to be pretty obvious. Assistants should never be expected to do anything that hasn't been discussed with them. If you're telling them you want them to do your social media, but you don't want them to reply to comments, you just want them to like or heart them or whatever, and then you get upset with them for not adding replies to the comments, because you told them you were going to do that, would be an issue. Or if you wanted them to do social media and you just told them to do your newsletter. What an assistant does for a different author might not be what you want them to do for you, and vice versa. A discussion should always take place during the hiring process and after, when you want them to take on new tasks, to find out if there are tasks they don't want to take on. I.e., maybe you're thinking about doing Kickstarter and you want them to set up their Kickstarter for you. They may not be comfortable doing it. Tasks an assistant shouldn't take on are ones you are uncomfortable giving them, or tasks they are uncomfortable doing. If they aren't comfortable doing the tasks or don't have the ability to do them, they won't be done well. If they can't do graphics because of a lack of knowledge or a lack of applications, it would be pointless to assign ad graphics to them. How can I verify work is being done? Assistant is effective. For some tasks, it's easy. You can just look. If your newsletter isn't going out, you should be subscribed to your own newsletter. You should be seeing it. If you're not looking at your own newsletter, I'm giving you a look right now. Look at your own newsletter. Make sure it's going out. Because sometimes the system won't send out your email. Other tasks they will turn into you when done or ask for more work. One of the things I do a lot of is graphic design. For Martha, I do a lot of graphic design work. I send her a proof of it to see if she likes it, what changes she needs, so she constantly sees. Or I'm constantly reminding her of deadlines. Hey, we need author notes. Hey, we need the blurb for the next book. Hey, here's my version of the blurb. Please edit. Hey, I need that edit back. Things like that. So as long as or you might use something like Trello or Asana or something else that they can do checklists on. Google Keep is one of my favorites. While some days you may ask your assistant to let you know what they are working on. So if you've, given them free rein to do what they want in certain days, when they first start, you might check in on them here and there. I'm not huge on checking in on my own assistant. I give her work to do. She does it, I pay her. If I check on something after it's done and there's an error, I let her know, she fixes it. Otherwise, I trust she's doing it and doing it right. I put a lot of trust in her. There should be some accountability. Whether they tell you they worked on certain tasks for a certain amount of time, or just tell you they've completed the task, it's between you and them. If they've completed a task and are looking for more work, I guarantee they'll reach out. Don't compare how long it took you or a previous assistant to do a task to how long your current assistant can do a task. Expect them to be slower at first and improve with time. What might they do or get away with if I'm not careful if they turn out to be slimy? That was a great question, by the way. I love the way it was worded. If you provide them with a credit card PayPal information to pay for things on your behalf, they may use it to purchase things for someone else. If you make them an administrator of your Facebook Ads Manager account, they could use that to run ads for another client if they admin. Anyone with any level of access for running ads, booking promotions, ordering swag should be able to provide you with an accurate accounting of their spending, with receipts at any time requested. They should be providing that to you on a monthly or quarterly basis as is. They might pirate your books. I love the look on her face because she didn't even think about that. They might share your marketing strategies or book ideas with other authors or other assistants. This is why I say an NDA isn't important. Hey, look, it's my last slide. Connect with me. You can find me on Facebook under Spiderwebs Design LLC. My personal account, Grace Snoke. There should be only one. If there's a second, it's not me. There's a ton of cat pictures on there because I have 2 cats named Loki and Odin, and yes, they are their namesakes. If you are looking for the worksheets, the link is here. You might notice it says RWA. I did the worksheets for Romance Writers of Australia. I refused to change the page name, just left it the same. I'm efficient. And if you want more information, I just released this book on Thursday. And there's also a newsletter sign up if you want it. I'm not going to push anyone to. That will also send out the Google Doc links for the questions to ask yourself and your assistant. Does anyone have questions? There's a mic, so I know everybody, so everyone can hear. There's questions. Awesome.
Hi.
Hi.
Is it more typical for pay scale and how to pay? Is it per hour? Is it per task? And how do you recommend planning that ahead of time?
It varies according to the assistant. Some assistants have a flat rate to do X many social media posts a month. I am an hourly rate. Some of them are by tasks. They will do X many graphics for this. They will format a book for this, and you can pay it piecemeal. And if that's something you're looking for, there's plenty of people out there who piecemeal out their services to make life easier.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Grace. Question is, in finding a good VA assistant, there's a number of sites out there that you can look at. If you could name the 3 top sites that you would recommend, could you give us 3 top?
I don't have any, to be perfectly honest.
Any, no?
I don't use them myself, so I couldn't say which ones are the best ones. I wasn't even on a site for myself. I just created my own, so.
So would you just recommend us just talking to other people who use VAs?
I would talk. Facebook groups are great. There's a few out there that are looking for authors looking for PAs. There's a couple out there, virtual assistants for authors. You can join those groups and see what they have in them.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
If you hired someone to do hourly work, how would you know what hours they're working? Is it just a trust basis if they report back to you, I worked X hours, and you pay them? And also, is there an average rate per hour that you feel is typical?
In my book, I say $20 to $30 an hour for an assistant, because right now, with the rate inflation is going, $15 an hour isn't going to cut it, and you don't necessarily want to be underpaying someone. Now, if they're a brand new assistant that has absolutely no experience, $15 is reasonable. They're going to be doing a lot of work for you. As for the time thing, I use an app that I time myself with, and I charge to a quarter hour. But normally, it's all of my clients trust me. I don't charge outrageous. I don't say it took me 4 hours to do something that took me 2, and they know that. So I think a lot of it is trust. A lot of it is knowing how long it takes you to do a task. And like I said, it may take them slightly longer at first. Account for that, and then see if they improve. So if you're getting charged more for time that you didn't expect, ask them. Ask them for an accounting. I am very meticulous about my accounting. Well, hold on. I am going to see if I can show it, just because I use an app called Timular. And when I use it, I have timing that shows everybody what I do when. And I can export it. Now, it does cost and it does cost money for an assistant to have this, but I can actually show what work I've done for what project. Huh? This is called Timular. Timular. Now, there's another app that I've seen people use that manage, how much time you are at your computer, and it reports it back to other people. I'm not overly fond of that because I consider that really close to hacking and keystroke recording, and I could see that being, I'm a little bit paranoid for security, if that hasn't been made clear yet regarding passwords. But yeah, so I love this app because it lets me account my time really easy. Next question?
You actually already answered my question. It was on a basic range, so thank you.
You just answered my question too, but I wondered, in your book that you just published, does that have a lot of these apps listed in them?
It doesn't have Timular in there because I use that just for my personal app, and I pay for it for myself so that I could easily bill my clients. But I do list books assistants should read. I list some other, social media sharing apps that you can use, different apps like that. I do mention those in there, and I'm not going to tell you use Trello or use Asana. It's something that you have to be comfortable with.
Thank you.
You recommended Google Keep. Why do you recommend it, and how do you use it?
Google Keep is amazing. It is a checklist system. You can use it as a checklist system that you can share the checklist with your assistant. It is free. You don't have to pay anyone for it. And you can add items to that checklist because it's live. And once it's shared with them, and then they can check it off, and you know when things have been done. The only downside is your assistant does have to remember to check mark everything as they're done. Any other questions? If not, I will be around for a little bit after this, and I look forward to chatting with some of you.